What's up, guys? Matty here, mixandmastermysong.com. Today we're going to do the ultimate tutorial on how to get a Logic session to somebody else. The first part of the video is going to be how to send a Logic session to a friend. So if your buddy has Logic or the mixer has Logic, I'm going to show you the best steps to get the session prepared so you can send it to them, and when they open it, everything will be there. The second part of the video will be just how to export stems out of Logic. So if your friend or the mixer doesn't have Logic, you can send just the stems, and I'll show you the proper way to do that. So by the time you're done with this, you should be able to get a Logic session to anyone and have it open perfectly. Let's go. All right, guys, so here is a session that my friend sent me over, and as you can see, it's got MIDI instruments, it's got audio files, it's got everything. It's already kind of half mixed, and I prefer people to send me Logic sessions with everything they've done, because all that stuff's creative stuff, and I usually want to start off where you left off when you send me a song to mix, for instance. So that's what I ask. Now, sometimes it's best, though, to transfer the MIDI instruments you have to audio, and the reason is I might not have Contact, or I might not have Omnis here, which was the case in this session, and then I can't open it, and when I play it, I won't hear any of your sounds. So you always want to make sure to first convert the MIDI to audio, and it's a really simple thing to do. So we have this snare here, and luckily I have all the Logic instruments, so it wasn't a problem, but the best thing to do is to actually convert all your MIDI instruments to audio first before sending. So it's really a simple thing. You just select the track and right click it and hit bounce in place. If it's not up here because I was just doing it, it might be down here, bounce in place, and you click that and it'll bring a dialog up. So the destination will be a new track. I doubt you'll want to select a track to put the audio file to. Always use a new track. Now, you can do a couple different things. You can either mute the source, which is the source being the snare MIDI track, delete it, or leave it. I usually just select mute it, or if I really don't think anyone's going to need this, when I send it, hit delete. Now, you probably want to do this from a copy of your session, so you're not deleting all your MIDI information. But you could just put delete so that the mixer, or me in this case, doesn't get that file. Bypass effects plugins, usually not, because you created this snare with the reverb. You want the mixer to get it with the reverb, or if you hate the reverb, then yeah, maybe you would bypass the effects. I always tell people to send me stems with effects, or and maybe send me a group of stems without effects. That way I can pick and choose what to use, but it's entirely up to you and who you're sending it to. I always do overload protection only. I don't like to normalize tracks in Logic. It can change the dynamics and the sound. Just do overload protection only, or even turn it off. 32-bit, you won't really have to worry about that much anyway. So this is a snare, so we'll name it that. Then you just click OK. And as you can see, it's a really pretty quick process. It's now converting this MIDI file to an audio file, and before you know it, it will show up right below it as audio file. Okay, so now this is good. We can hide this or do whatever we want, and this will, when we send this to somebody, it will be it will turn into it will be an audio file, and then we'll have to worry about having the plugins or not. The next thing to be concerned about before sending something is about sends and returns. Okay, so you can see that she has a bunch of sends here, and so if we scroll down to the end of our session here are the returns. So obviously, if you guys know, sends go to returns, so that bus send 1 goes here, right? What you want to do here is, say you're using some special $1,000 reverb that I might not have at my studio, because all I have is these Logic stock reverbs or whatever. You want to switch this, go right click and click create track, okay? And once you do that, you're going to notice it kind of disappeared. But it showed up on the other side, or let's do this even quicker and switch to our edit window, and you'll see it's here now, right? So for exporting stems, you're done. This is great, but you still need one more step to do. So what you'll want to do is just solo this. What you want to do is go to File and Export one track as audio. And once that does that, you can bring it back in, and this reverb will now be an audio track. So when you send it, if the mixer will have all the reverbs you used, and he or she can either mute it or not. but at least it will be there. So the intention, the ideas that you had with the vocal reverbs and all that will all be there for the mixer to use. So once that's all done, you've done all this, you've sourced all your MIDI tracks, you've brought in your reverbs, and everything is an audio file now. The last thing you might want to do, and this also goes for if you're sending it with MIDI instruments still on, even more so if you're going to send it with your MIDI instruments still on, we go to a save as, and make sure to include audio files, sample audio data, ultimate beat data, space designer, all these things checked, and even maybe the Apple sound library content if you're using some Apple loops or something. That way all the audio files and all the loops, stems, and everything you're using in this song will be saved when they go to the next person. So that basically concludes as far as how to save send a session. Once it saves, zip it up, send it over, done. Now, to export a session, this could all stay. You wouldn't need to switch all the MIDI stuff. If you just want to export stems and not the logic files, you can leave all this stuff here. And then the only thing you would have to do is what we talked about with the reverbs, is go and create a track. So just, once again, we go back, so go over to our returns, right click, create track, right click, create track, and it'll switch all these over to the edit window, make them, in here. And then you're going to go from the top of your tracks all the way to the bottom, and then shift click, and so you select everything, right? Now the important thing is to make sure your loop starts at the beginning. So you want to click your loop, make sure it is on bar 1. Okay, so everything's going to send from bar 1 to the end. Then you're going to go to File, Export, and then 112 tracks as audio files. Now this isn't actually 112 tracks. I'd have to go through and clean up some of this MIDI stuff because she has some duplicate files and stuff. But if everything's been converted to audio, this would be way less tracks. But I haven't done that yet. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys with it. But you just click this. Then 32-bit wave, you want to hit include volume and pan automation. Why do you want to do that? Well, you usually want the mixer to get the song with the volumes you had already. So if your vocal is a certain level and the kick is a certain level, if you include this, that way it will stay that level. So when I open your mix, it's the same thing as it was when you left it. If you don't, sometimes it will come all at 0 or the volumes will be off and all the automation you might have done will be lost. And it's no good. It's going to sound different. You always want the mixer to get the song you've been working on for months to be the same when he opens it in Pro Tools or whatever it is. So include volume pan automation. You don't want to bypass effects because a lot of times you want to send with effects, okay? 32 bits fine, and then everything else is good. Overload production only, and then you just hit export. Let me move this over so you guys can see it. Hit export, and it's going to do a whole bunch of processing, which we won't do on a video, and then that will be done. The new folder, you're going to want to maybe even create a new folder to do it, but now you're hitting export, and it's done. And that's all you got to do. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them. If you need your song mixer mastered with Logic or any other program, hit me up at mixermastermysong.com. You can find my courses and presets there too. Thanks.